Good evening. Welcome once again to Branco Broadcast. I am Bob Branco on this cold and rainy December evening here in New England. And we have with us Jane Kronheim. She's going to talk about a very interesting topic this evening. Welcome to the show, Jane.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be on your show tonight. And I thought it would be fun and give a little levity to our conversation to title this talk, Calling All Artists. And probably some of you that are listening are wondering now, why would Jane want to title this Calling All Artists? Well, I'm not sure if a lot of you know about my background, but I did become a teacher of the blind and visually impaired many years ago. But the way in which I got into the field was quite unusual. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background there and then take you on a journey about an artist, and that's me. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio originally, and when I was finishing an art education and art studio degree in Cleveland State, long time ago in the 70s, I happened to see on our job board at the student union a posting that said the following: wanted arts and crafts director at Camp for the Blind. Contact the Cleveland Society for the Blind. So I thought, well, that would be a cool thing to do, and I gave them a call and discovered that the Cleveland Society for the Blind had a summer camp by the name of Highbrook Lodge, which happens to be the oldest camp for the blind in the country. I didn't know that, but there was lots of little details. I later learned about the Cleveland Sight Center as well as Highbrook Lodge. So I got the job. And in the summer of 1974, I was the arts and crafts director at this camp located in Chardon, Ohio. So as I was there working at this camp, I discovered that every week or so they'd have a different group of people. They'd have, children coming in from all over the state of Ohio. They'd have the adults coming in. They would have, parents and their children. We'd have teen week and stuff like that. Then I was informed that at the camp that summer they were going to have the very first international conference for deaf, blind adults. This was the first time they had this conference ever, in 1974 at Highbrook Lodge. And, of course, we were, as the staff, as the counselors, we were prepared for this event. It was quite exciting. Our program director at the time at the camp was a man named Bashir Masudi, who was from Indiana. We called him Bash. Bash had retinitis pigmentosa, so he also was very significantly visually impaired blind himself, but he used to like to come down to the craft shop and to see what I was doing. And he liked what he saw, whatever visual picture he could get. So later on, he got to talking to me about this type of question: how would I like to go into the field of blindness and visual impairment? So my immediate reaction was, you're kidding. You mean I have to go back to school? Because at the time I wasn't a real strong, we'll say, academic learner. I wasn't excited about sitting in lecture halls taking lots of notes. I had also gone to Ohio State in previous 2 years. And my very first experience assisting anyone with blindness or visual impairment was a very brilliant student at Ohio State. At the time, I was there in 1969, and he was an engineering student, and I used to help him get notes and gather information in an engineering research library. But many years later after that, I had this experience at the Camp for the Blind. So the following year, I thought to myself, well, Bash here kind of thought I should explore going into this field. So I wrote several letters to different universities. One was Boston College. One was Penn, I think it was University of Pennsylvania, or maybe it was Pitt. And the other one was at Michigan State in East Lansing. But even before that time, when I had the conversation at the camp with Bashir, I looked at him quizzically and I said, tell me something. what do you really need in this field right now? Because I really didn't know much about it at all, but I figured let me ask him a very important question, which was, what do you need? And, of course, his immediate reaction was, excuse me, we need a lot of help in the field of deaf blindness. So I went, okay. So when I applied to Michigan State in East Lansing, I wrote them a rather heartfelt letter about myself and my eagerness to enter that program. Now, I don't know how many of you realize this, but when someone is applying to be in a program, to be trained as a teacher for the blind and visually impaired, you have to have some kind of background, either in education or psychology. That's the way it was at the time. But because I had studied and gotten a certificate in art education, which I got from Cleveland State, they took a good look at that. And so I wrote them a letter, a very personal letter, about myself. And they also respond very, very personally, I must say, of the three schools. So I was accepted at the graduate program at Michigan State, and that summer I entered into the program. Needless to say, it was a bit shocking. I had so much coursework, including methodology, including Braille, including the audiology, and some physiology of the eye. And I was blown away by this, and hence I thought, I must have made a big mistake. I don't think I can handle this at all. I think I'll just go back home. But thankfully, there was a guest teacher there that summer who sat me down and had a long, hard talk with me. And what she was about to tell me was very, very important to me as a person and as a future teacher of the blind and visually impaired. And here is what she had to say to me. She said, Jane, I really want you to stay. I want you to go through this coursework. We need you in this field. So I was really blown away by that and thought, well, now why would she say that to me? Now, she must have known something about my background. She must have known that I was an artist and that I had had some experience at the Camp for the Blind back in Ohio. So I kind of looked at her quizzically saying, why do you say that? And her response to me was very pivotal to me as a person. She said, I'm saying this to you because you have a very divergent mind. Of course, nobody ever said that to me before. I thought, what does she mean? I have a divergent mind. And I don't know if many of you listening understand this because I didn't at the time. But when you have a divergent mind, it means that you're able to develop your mind in different directions. Your type of thinking will open up your mind in all these directions, and you're looking at possibilities in your life or in other situations, because those possibilities will lead you to look for options, and options that may not necessarily be apparent at first. Therefore, a divergent thinker is looking for options as opposed to choosing among predetermined ones. So when a divergent thinker is thinking in terms of possibilities, they're doing that instead of in terms of limited choices. So I guess she somehow figured me out, and that as an artistic person, I'm always looking for other ways, means to problem solve situations, or even in art. What kind of art materials would I use? What kind of materials would this particular deaf, blind, or visually impaired student want to work with? And so I was always challenged in that way, and I took the whole idea of divergent thinking and being artistic through my work into the field of blindness and visual impairment. And I know a lot of you may have some questions in your mind, but let me add a few more things here. When I finished my coursework in Michigan, I went back to Ohio, and I went back to the agency that in a way got me started. It first implanted the seed for me to go into this field, and that was back at the Cleveland Society for the Blind, or they call it the Sight Center. So I was their children's worker for a while, but very quickly I developed passion for working with the youngest of the young children. That means birth to age 3. And so I was seeking all over Northeast Ohio to see how to identify these children and where they were. Around that time, I went to a conference where I met a woman named Sherry Rayner, who was from Michigan, and I learned that she was going to be moving to New England and possibly starting a program at Perkins. Just to cut to the short of this, she recruited me from Cleveland to come and join her. So around 1979, I moved to the Boston area, and I helped Sherry and another teacher named Julie Irvin to begin the preschool program at Perkins. So I helped them start that program, and I also helped them write a grant, which then became the infant toddler program. Now, this was a long time ago. This was around 1979, 1980, and 81. It's very possible that the people there who are at Perkins now and working on that program have no clue who I am because it was so long ago. But the program was very dear to my heart. So as an artist, which I'm always continuing to be an artist, and I joined this program as a teacher of the blind, I was noticing that for these young children who are age 3 to 6 at our preschool, we really didn't have a lot of the types of materials one would need to introduce them to literacy, whether this would be pre-reading as in large print or for pre-braille activities. So I thought, I don't see anything out there. So as my divergent mind kept working overtime, I kept searching and searching and, of course, looked through all the catalogs that I knew of to see where were some products for these kids. I couldn't find them. So one of the things I do with my mind when I can't find something or realize that it's out there and I need it in my work is I go, well, it's not out there, so I guess I'll create it. So it was in those years that I designed and created a product called the Learning Pillows. So my creative mind and my teacher mind and my literary mind then came together to do this particular product. And what these pillows were about was all kinds of tactual and visual and sometimes sound-producing objects on the surface of this pillow, the front and back of the pillow. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to kind of make a story about this, and that is when I began to write. As a writer, it began with the Learning Pillows. And so these products then evolved, and people would hear about them, and I'd hear from people, or I'd be asked to talk about them. And, I went to conferences, and I did presentations, and people would approach me because they wanted to get these pillows. So this was one good contribution as an artist, as an educator, and as a writer, and how those ideas converged together. As the years passed, and I continued to do some of my work in New England, I kind of broke off from the program there at Perkins. I wanted to get out into the field more, into the school systems to see what did these schools need, because I knew a lot of these kids were also out there in the mainstream. And it was also at that time that I was introduced to some doctors at the Charles Stephens Eye Research Institute. Now, how would I find myself there? I was introduced to a very fine pediatric ophthalmologist named Osama Katsumi, who at the time was running a children's low vision clinic. And Dr. Tetsuo Hirose was the chief retina specialist who was seeing a lot of children. That would have been the late 80s and the early 90s. So once again, I found myself in a situation where I was invited to come, and for a while I was just coming voluntarily. For about 18 months, I would show up. It was baby day at the Stephens Institute, and I had just a marvelous experience there learning all about the medicine of what these eye doctors were doing. But again, the artist in me was creeping up inside saying, gosh, what can I do for these guys? How can I be artistic in this clinical environment? But because I was then at that point assisting Dr. Katsumi, and they did give me a position there after about 18 months as a clinical research assistant, I began to see some of the doctor's own difficulties when examining such young children. You have to understand that these children were coming with their families from all over the world to see Dr. Hirose, to see if the doctor could repair their baby's retinas. Most of these children had been premature, and I think many of you understand what happens. during retinopathy of prematurity. In fact, maybe some of you who are listening to me talk right now have this experience yourself. Needless to say, I'd be watching our doctor with these kids, and we used various items to evaluate the children's vision. And so one day I thought, I could help him to hold something better while he's examining these children. And we used a lot of the black and white stripes and other, we call them pictograms if possible, for these kids. So I began to develop something at home here using my sewing machine again, called a visual hand display, in which the doctor would insert his hand into the item. You can think of a mitt, but it was round. Face on one side, stripes on the other, and a squeaker I put inside. And why did I put a squeaker inside that thing? Because when little babies get fussy and irritable and you make a silly sound, suddenly they're paying attention and they're wondering, where did that sound come from? So I developed a product for us to use in that clinic. And there are many, many times in which this has happened. When I found myself in a situation, it could have been with a doctor, an eye doctor. It could have been like at our camp for the blind. It could have been at the preschool program. But one other time I'd like to bring up that I was working with some children in the Massachusetts school systems. A lot of kids who have low vision but seem distracted all the time, and these kids were unable to really pay attention to what their hands were doing. So I thought, now what could I do? What could I create that's very compelling for these kids to pay attention to what's in front of them? And I had some old Velcro dart balls around, so I started exploring those, moving them around on Velcro pathways. So I simply developed a Velcro ball moving around on a mysterious pathway. Nobody knew where it was going until finally you get to the end of the story, and I created a face, and that ball became a nose on a great big face. So I created a story around this idea of what the child was doing, and I thought, this is a pretty nifty idea, but I don't know how to market this idea. I don't know how to get it out there. I think I need a company behind me. So it was kind of hard for an artist and a teacher and a writer to know who to find. So I had been very aware of American Printing House for the Blind at that point. So I did something very daring, which divergent thinkers do. We think outside the box. And I simply began to reach out to them to find out how to submit an idea. I don't know if many of you realize this, but APH does open themselves up for ideas from outside their company. So what became a very small idea at first, using a Velcro ball in a pathway, really went somewhere, and I ended up going down to Louisville, Kentucky to speak with them and give them a presentation. And I will say that after 3 years, they did say, yes, we want to take up your idea, and after 3 years of working on this with their tactile graphics department, it became a product. And it's not easy to come out with a product when you are now connecting with somebody else, meaning a company. So that was pretty daring of me, but it worked. So this product became a rolling ride-along series, and the book itself is known as Rolling into Place. So here came another product to solve yet another problem. Years and years and years went by, and I have little by little created other ideas and other products, but it's very tedious sometimes to know exactly what to do with these products, where to go with these products. In more recent years, I have decided to do even more creative things, and this time with sound. I don't know if some of you realize, but around 7 years ago, I developed a business called Voices of Experience. And then again, this would involve the senses, and especially the audio sense of hearing. And I had asked my colleague, Roger Jacasey, to join me as an audio engineer, and many of you know Roger, and he has also spoken on your broadcast. So together we've been working on many, many creative projects. The most exciting one recently is a book that we've worked on for an author out of Pennsylvania. And this book, called Sebastian's Tale, has involved 28 different character voices. So you're thinking, what on earth has Jane taken on? And who's going to do all those 28 character voices. Well, I have to backtrack a little bit here and say, just like when I designed my learning pillows way back in the 80s, and I said to myself, I can do that. And just like when I developed a product for the doctor in the pediatric clinic, in the ophthalmology clinic, and I looked at his needs and I said, I can do that. I can help him. And just like I worked with kids who had trouble watching what they were doing with their limited vision, and I thought, I can make that. So, too, when I was met with this project proposal to work on this amazing book involving 28 voices, I said to myself, as I said to Roger, we can do that. So part of the point of my discussion here today in saying calling all artists is to remind everybody to reach in to your own potential, to also ask those who work in this field to think outside the box a little bit more than they do. And they can come up with some very creative ideas and thought-provoking pioneering. Now, I would like to open it up for questions.
Yeah, I had a question about that camp. Was it Camp Highbrook, you said?
Highbrook, Highbrook, Highbrook Lodge.
Highbrook, and you said it was the oldest camp for the blind or deafblind?
Yes, Lodge. They're in Chardon, Ohio.
And when did they start, do you know?
1928.
Let me see. When I was there, I'm thinking 1978.
Yeah.
They were celebrating their 50th anniversary.
Are they still around?
Yes, I go there. Excuse me. I go there every year.
Oh.
And who are you?
Jeffrey Friedlander. I live down in the southern corner of Ohio, Cincinnati.
Wonderful. And you go there every year?
Yes, during handicap session, usually the last week in June.
Well, you're lucky that you're going there, and they're lucky to have you going there, because my memories of that place are really, really rich, I have to tell you. I had a great time there. I met some wonderful people, and I will always cherish my memories of having been an arts and crafts director there.
Excuse me, another question. Where can you get the book on the 28 voices? Is it available in what format?
Yes, the Sebastian's Tale. We're going to make this available very, very soon. What you can do you go online and do email?
No, I don't have access to a computer at all.
Okay.
Now, what fund was that going to be from American Printing House?
No. Our book, we're doing this audio book on behalf of the author. And to help you, the name of the book is Sebastian's Tale.
Sebastian's Tale, yeah.
Sebastian's Tale. For those of you who are interested in the audio book, I would say give yourself about 2 weeks, and it's going to become available. You can contact us at Voices of Experience.
Yeah, what's the number?
Our number here. You want to call us? Okay. You can reach us at 603.
Yeah.
827.
Yeah.
3859.
3859.
Yes.
Now, sorry.
We're going to be making it available soon. We're just now getting it into, we want to make it available on one CD. Mm-hmm. We first had it on a series of 5 CDs, but because of the author's request to see what we could do, we have found a way of getting the entire story of 24 chapters on one CD, and it sounds fantastic.
Will that be like MP3 CD or?
Yeah, it's going to be like an MP3. So if you get this, I'm just telling you that you can play it on a standard computer. You can play it if you're in a car with somebody and you're traveling long distance. It's great to listen to in the car.
I have MP3 player.
Yeah, you probably can. We're going to investigate all the different devices that you can play this on, and we will have this information up on our site, voicesofexperience.com, but also on the author's site. If you go to sebastianstale.com, and you can seek out the information from the author. The author is Dylan Weiss, D-Y-L-N-W-E-I-S-S.
Dylan Weiss, is he in Ohio?
No. The author is a woman. She lives in Pennsylvania.
Oh, is that a children's book kind of thing?
It's a children's book, but I'm going to tell you the truth. It's a great book for anybody to read.
I 28 characters. It sounds pretty. I know a lot of writers write
What
novels.
part of Pennsylvania she located?
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Okay. Author lives in the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area, and I just want to shift a little bit here, if you don't mind, and see if anybody else has a different question.
I have a question for you, Jane.
Oh, is this Karen?
Yes, this is me, yeah.
Hi, Karen. How are you?
And doing fine. When you were at camp, did you ever do anything like ceramics or anything like that?
We did. We had a kiln there.
Like that?
We had a kiln, yep. The kids loved it. I used a lot of, natural materials.
Yeah.
We worked with wood and glue. We even did candle making. There was all sorts of daring things we did. And there were, I'm thinking of some children now, there were some children who loved to draw with whatever remaining vision they had. And I remember one little girl, even though she was totally blind, she would describe whatever it was that she wanted maybe for somebody else to draw. So she had a lot of audio descriptions of things that we'd record for her.
The reason I asked this is I did ceramics at Perkins, and I got an award for it.
Whoa, wonderful.
Yes.
Well, I wish
I could do it as well, but I can't seem to find it.
You can't find it?
I guess I haven't looked enough, I guess.
Okay, what was it
really
you created?
True explanation. What?
What was it you created?
Oh, I made a pinch pot. The thing that I got an award for was a mobile that I made. I had a relationship with someone I wrote. I modeled things that he might like, a violin, a picture of a field, a boat, several other things. I got an award.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well,
I made this road that was kind of picturesque, road of life kind of, and I showed it in open house. People liked what I did. Unfortunately, most of my ceramics is gone. It's lost.
Oh, but you have the memories of what you did.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Your question? Still waiting for any questions out there. Otherwise, I'll start talking again.
Are you visually impaired or blind yourself, or?
No, I'm not.
You're not. I didn't. I was just curious. But that's great. I think you do it very creative. I like how you described thinking out of the box and putting that creativity and intuition and literal. I think that's great.
Well, yeah. And who am I speaking with now?
I'm sorry. My name's Steve.
Steve.
Yeah.
And where are you calling from, Steve?
I'm calling from Attleboro, Massachusetts, like near Providence, Rhode Island, kind of.
I know where that is.
Uh-huh.
Well, here's the thing. Whether you're blind, whether you're sighted, whether you're visually impaired, whatever the situation is, I think that if people can think more creatively for themselves, for their situation, maybe wherever you're working, I think that I was drawn into this field to be creative in this field and to help a lot of people to also think outside the box. And I say this because, I've been at this for about 40 years in the field. Mm-hmm. And often I like to inspire my colleagues, whether they're blind or whether they're sighted, it doesn't matter, but to inspire them to just be a little more creative in their thinking and in their work. I think there's a problem and a tendency in the teaching profession for people to fall into a rut, if you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
And what that means is that, and this can happen to anybody, but I'm bringing up the teaching profession, because I see this a lot. And they just want to go with maybe what the latest fad is, the latest trend is, the latest recipe, the latest technology or the app or whatever it is.
Right.
you can call me old school, but especially when I'm working with very young children, I like to work with them using all the senses. A multi-sensory teacher and learner myself. And one of my concerns that I've been seeing in recent years is that a lot of these children have been rushed into the technology, and I say this about the sighted and the visually impaired and blind children. And they're rushing these kids. And I've got a funny story about this because 2 days a week I still go out to some schools. So I happen to be in this one school recently, and I help a preschool. I can't identify where it is, but I go to a preschool, and there are 1 or 2 children that experience vision loss. So this little 3-year-old was coming to a session with me, and she says, I want to work with my iPaddy. That's what she calls it, the iPaddy. I want my iPaddy. And, of course, I had to stifle my laughter because it really was cute, you know. Mm-hmm. So I simply looked at her, and I said, I don't have an iPaddy, but I have this. And I brought out, you know, among other things, the learning pillows, my tachographic books, a lot of other beautiful, colorful picture books, and she quickly forgot about her iPaddy, okay?
That's wow. Yeah, good.
Right.
Good to get your iPad.
I mean, it's really kind of cute, the little 3-year-old, a very little child asking for her iPaddy, but they were using them in that preschool program, much to my dismay.
Yeah, I saw a kid on the bus.
I have a very strong objection to people showing iPads and other technologies to such young children. I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
That is a time in a child's life when they need to really be playing with lots of great stuff. And I mean real objects, real three-dimensional items filled with beautiful textures, colors, and whatnot. So I had to share that one.
That's good.
And
how much is this recording going to cost? That's all I have to ask.
I'm thinking, I think it'll probably be $15 for the CD. And if we are mailing it to you, then we'll probably just add a few more dollars to cover those costs. So I guess off the top of my head, I'd say $18.
18.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So there'll be, so when I call, then you give the address to send, or do you take credit cards as well?
Well, right now, I need to review all this with the author, because I want her go-ahead on how best to do this. But why don't you contact us once we're off this phone conference, okay?
Yeah.
You've got my phone number. You can also contact the author at sebastianstale.com. At any rate, I wanted to tell you about all of these creative adventures I've been on, and they keep on going. So just because I'm 66 years old doesn't I stop creating. All of those experiences of thinking outside the box, of being a divergent thinker, thinking in the moment to try to help people, will just keep happening. Anybody else?
Keeps you young if you're creative, I think. And
I'm sorry, I think so too.
It keeps you young if you keep your mind busy,
Absolutely correct. When you can think in a creative mode, it's also fun, really.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
It makes life fun that way,
Fun and it's playful. So that when the teachers I meet, if I can at least give them a demonstration of how to be like this, because a lot of the teachers, I have to tell you, they're swimming in paperwork.
Oh, yeah.
It's an unfortunate thing that's been happening with the teaching profession. They're either glued to their iPads or their own laptop screens or their paperwork or their grids or whatever it is. And it's very sad that they're not being given a chance to be as creative as they can be because they are just drowning in the paperwork and drowning in, being glued
Common
to
Core.
the screen. What?
And the Common Core material. So teachers have no choice in what they teach. Like Common Core sort of dictates them what to teach. I mean, more testing as well.
Yeah. Well, because when I step into these school systems and these classrooms, I'm a consultant. I'm a teacher of the visually impaired, but I'm a consultant who comes in for about an hour or so, and I have the chance at that point to step back and watch what's going on. And I also try to tell the teachers and therapists I'm working with, give me a chance to float around a little bit and see what's going on with this child. Not just in the 30 minutes I'm with that kid and I'm saying, boom, I'm out of here, but give me a chance to see what else is going on in your school where this child is learning. And you'd be surprised how open-minded a lot of them will become. They may say to me, oh, I didn't know you wanted to do that, because they're functioning on a very old paradigm. The consultant comes in, the consultant meets the child, sits with the child for 30 minutes, says goodbye, and goes on to the next school. I don't like to do that, or just that, if you know what I mean. I've been to places where I'll say, really, what is your schedule? Let me collect a whole bunch of hours of time here and give me a chance to float around and see how that kid is really functioning. And Suzette is functioning when she goes to the cafeteria, is functioning when she has her specials like music or art, out on the playground. Give me a chance to watch that. And if I can trigger that open-mindedness in some of the staff at the schools, it really does help the child a lot more to be able to do that. And I certainly have become quite an expert at observation. And that also happens both because I'm an artist, but also because I'm trained to observe the children to help the staff know what to do next. But I think our schools are still stuck. They're stuck in some funny gear that they've been stuck in for decades. Yeah. And they don't seem to know how to pull away. And they think that because they got a new iPad, it's going to help them. But believe me, that's just another
problem. Yeah.
It's just another tool, It could be a pencil. It could be an iPad. If I could only reach their attitude, you know what I mean? If their attitude or their opinions or their minds, it doesn't matter what they're using in the classroom. It could be chalk on a slate. I don't care. It's can they open up their minds and think about this a little differently. But that's also part of having a divergent mind, which I discussed early on. Any other questions?
Just a comment. This is Karen coming out again just to say that the book that's been written fairly recently about how social media and things are affecting kids socially in not such a good way.
That's right.
Stopping them from interacting socially with people in a real, face-to-face and everything. I've long thought that, social media is all good, but they need face-to-face.
You're right, Karen. It's a serious, serious problem. And you're reminding me of something I wrote recently. I write a column every now and then for a local paper. So I wrote a piece called 7 People in a Waiting Room. And what this was all about was I was taking my Subaru for some work up in Keene, New Hampshire. And, when you have about an hour or two to kill, you got to go sit in a waiting room and do something. Okay? So I do not bring iPhones and iPads and stuff around with me. I usually, it's like a magazine or doing a crossword puzzle or something, or do some of my writing work for school. But the point is I entered into the waiting room, and there were 6 other people in there. I'm the 7th person in the waiting room. Every single person was glued to their iPod, their iPhone, their iPad, whatever the hell it was. So I thought to myself, okay, Jane, you like to observe people. Why don't you sit here for a while and see what happens? First of all, they didn't even look up when I walked in. Okay, that's numero uno problem. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe I could have walked in the room and been a crazy person, but I walked in the room and sat down. No one looked up. Okay. So I'm biding my time. A lot of time is passing. And the only time anybody looked up was when their name was called because their car service was done. Yeah. And little by little I wrote about this and this experience in this waiting room. Yeah, you're going to laugh at this, but recently I was back out at Subaru for something and was talking to the gentleman who I like to have conversations with when I'm out there because he helped me get this car in the first place. And he's a real talker. And I said, hey, Tony, I said, I have to tell you something I wrote about recently, and it had to do with your waiting room here. And he's laughing, and he was serious. But he asked me to send him the article, which I did. And he says, oh, my God, that's exactly the way it is. But, you know, it's a serious problem with the young people because they're staring at these devices. Now, the other day, I was pulling out of an area in Peterborough, New Hampshire here. I had been shopping, and I was pulling out of the parking lot. And I'm in my Subaru, and I'm driving out, and there's this probably 20-something person crossing the street at his iDevice. Yeah. And I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting for this person to look up to notice that my car is there, and it's a sizable car. It's not a tiny little thing. And finally, I just beeped the hell out of that horn. Excuse me, I just honked like the living daylight. And he finally looked up, and he was completely dazed, as if he had been drugged by the addiction of looking at his screen. And I just, you know, shrugged my shoulders and said, what's up with you, buddy? And then he finally crossed the street, and I was able to get out of that parking lot. But, I mean, this is a serious problem that can have serious consequences.
Yeah.
Well, I worry about...
Even texting, my sister texted me, said, you didn't answer my text. I said, if you're busy, if you can use to text me on the phone, call me up. I'm old school, too. I want to hear your voice, you know?
Right.
You can take all that trouble to text me. Why not just call and say hi?
It's a
lot easier.
Lauren, I wanted to mention to you, Jane, when I'm listening to what you're saying, it's like nobody has an imagination anymore. And, you know, I think, like, part of it, too, is, like, even with the music, you know, like, you'd listen to music and you'd imagine things. Now they have it where they have the videos and they have to tell you what the music's all about. It's like nobody has any imagination anymore.
Yeah, it's a problem, and I totally agree with you. I'm so glad you brought up that word imagination because it's something I value very, very highly is my imagination. And the fact that I was lucky to come from a family. I have 2 older sisters, and we just used to play and play and play and use our imaginations to do all sorts of things, whether it was creating little games with the cards like card houses or inventing clothing for our Ginny dolls or who knows what. We used our imagination. We didn't have a lot of money in those years. In the early 50s, everybody was struggling pretty much on the same par. But children were playing games that, like the traditional games, whether it's Ring Around the Rosie, playing checkers at a little table, you know, getting on your bikes with your sisters or playing dress up. I'm sure some children still do this, but they're not doing it enough.
Yeah.
But the problem is also with the adults. The adults are lacking in imagination, so they're not able to demonstrate this to children. Here's another example of something came up. Now, this is so simple, you guys won't believe this, but an OT, an occupational therapist out in one of the programs I go to, had been searching for other ways to help this child learn how to zip, learn how to unsnap or snap, and using buttons. Because none of these things were always available on the child's clothing. Or, of course, the natural way of practicing these things is dressing, undressing, or putting your jacket on, you know, things like that. But, of course, Velcro is used for everything. But she was wondering, you know, what was out there to practice this. And, of course, on one of my learning pillows, one of my characters on the learning pillow was trying to hide somewhere. And one of the items is a zipper pouch. And, of course, I use this to help children manipulate that so that they can secure this little finger puppet inside that pouch. And I've been bringing these things up little by little, you know, to them. But then I brought this up. I said, everybody, this was in an email to the teacher and the OT. I said, do you still have any of those old purses and I call them that old bag, old bags that have lots of zippers and have lots of snap pockets and have lots of cool places to put things? I said, why don't you create a corner of the room there where this little girl and all of her friends could go exploring and finding things that are lost or that were hidden or that were mysteriously gone and ended up inside these little purses with pockets. Oh, my God, the reaction was like, what a great idea.
Yeah, how original.
Oh, God, they've been doing that for years.
I know.
I put everything in
my God, they're lost. What can I do? So I have to be very careful with these women. They're all women and one guy. Because I don't want to insult them. I don't want to offend them. I'm trying to help them. So I try to be as, gentle about this as I can so I can get them to think again about some of the most basic things we have in life that the little children can explore and practice these without thinking. It won't become so difficult because they'll be having such a good time.
Yep.
So, I've often said to people, and this is the other reason I designed the learning pillows, because they're fun. They're a lot of fun. And I thought to myself, if the children can't have fun learning, and as a teacher, I can't have fun teaching, then it's all over with. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's also at the background of my thinking as a teacher, as an artist, as a writer, and now the audio work I'm doing. I want it to be fun, and I want everybody who's paying attention to enjoy all of this work we've been doing.
Yeah.
But the problem is with the teachers, back to the teachers, it seems like everything has become, and they use the word task, a task. The child will complete the task. Like, oh, holy moly, that's terrible. So I try to shake things up a little bit when I get out there. I can't be too outrageous, or they'll probably show me the door. But I try to shake things up a little bit when I get to these schools and see if I can have any effect on these people, if only they'll give themselves a chance. And then it brings up the old phrase of stopping to smell the roses.
Yeah, right.
Because everybody's in a hurry. Any other questions or comments?
I have another comment. Jane, I didn't mean to take up your time, but I just wanted to say about texting. I can't get to talk to my granddaughter because she won't talk on the phone. She texts.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Well, that's
the trouble. It's really unfortunate.
How old is she?
She's in her 20s.
She's what?
20s?
Yeah.
Okay, she's in her 20s. She won't talk? Okay, this brings up something else. And I've had other people bring this to my attention, that a lot of the young people, the younger generation, they no longer know how to carry on a conversation.
Right.
That's extremely sad because...
Yeah, it is. They're not learning how to do it because they're doing the texting. And that is insane. And I wonder what will happen. Because
they're going to have to teach their kids, I hope. She has a child. He's 8 years old. But she won't. I said, I never can get a hold of her. And my daughter said, well, you'll be. She talks. She doesn't text. She doesn't talk. She texts. She prefers texting to talking.
Yeah. I think what's going to happen is if we can get enough years of research on this, and I hope it happens quickly, people who are studying this, probably both psychologists and speech and language therapists, are going to examine this very carefully, and I hope very soon they come out with their findings before it's too late.
Well, I wrote a story about it, and I've been meaning to send it to Bob. And
I'd like that. Can you
want
send
to see it? Okay. Well, it's part of a series that I've written about. Well, I'll explain it to you as part of the science fiction series.
Well, maybe you can email it. All right.
I'll explain it to you. I'll call you and tell you about it.
That's good. I'd like to hear about that because it is a serious problem.
It is a serious problem because I don't text. And someone said to me, send me everything. I said, I don't know how to text. I won't pay for it.
I don't either. I
don't do that either. In fact, I said recently to somebody who had suggested that they could text me, I just flat out said, I don't do that.
I don't either. I couldn't read it even if I wanted to. I couldn't read it even if I wanted to.
Yeah. It's something that the young people are doing, and, you know.
I mean, it's okay in a hurry, I guess, or something, but it's something to do all the time. I really think it's very sad, and it's not helping to develop people's cognitive skills or conversational or social skills.
You're right. I agree.
I mean, they do it on the bus. They do it everywhere, and then they talk at the, either that or they use the phone on the bus.
I saw that kid on the bus. She must have been 3 or 4 years old with some kid iPad-y thing, and it was like,
My God.
it was so sad. They play with a regular toy like we used to.
I have to tell you guys something very funny about the iPad. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
A number of years ago, somebody wrote a satire about this. Now, you know the book Good Night Moon?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right, there's a book out. I want you guys can find it. It's called Good Night iPad.
Oh.
No way.
He wrote, it's a satire, you know what, they're making fun of this. And the author, is named Anne Droid. And it's called Good Night iPad. So, and the illustrations, for those of you who can see these illustrations, correspond and look very much like the illustrations in a way in the Goodnight Moon story. And I didn't even know this was out there. I must have been roaming around our bookstore and our local bookstore, and I came upon it, and of course I grabbed it and I said, I've got to show this to everybody because it's an important message in the illustrations in the story Goodnight iPad.
My niece would love to see that. She's
the cartoon-like characters are all like in a living room together with a grandmother-looking character. And they're all toddling around the room playing with all their screens and iPads, and my one little child looks like the picture of a rattle on the screen, shaking this screen thing that has the rattle image on. It's very funny. And so finally this grandmother character is so fed up. She's yelling at everybody. It's like, put them all away. Get rid of them all. And she gathers them around herself in a much more meaningful, deeper way. Like, come around, Grandma. I'm going to tell you a story. You know, the old storyteller. You guys ought to check this out. Good Night iPad. It's out there.
I bet it's out there.
It is out there because I bought it. And if you...
I don't know if it's in Braille or audio yet.
Oh, I know
audio. I'm sure it is.
Braille.
It's been around a while. I'm sure it is.
A little picture book. I don't think they put it in Braille or audio, but you can inquire.
National Braille Press does that, like Good Night Moon by Margaret Wise Brown.
But this is a spoof, like a satire on that. But anyway, we're off topic a little bit here, but not too far off. But if there's any other questions about my conversation, any of the products I've worked on, any of the projects I'm now involved with Voices of Experience, let me know if you have any questions about that. Anybody else? Pretty quiet.
Yes, I have another question. I guess I'll tell. Do you do old cookbooks? Can you put them from tape and CD? Let's say, because I know some mine are going to wear out.
Oh, you mean to take a cookbook that is in print? You mean?
That's on tape. That's on 4-track.
You have something on cassette?
Or even 2-track. I have, and do you put them in CDs?
Well, we can digitize almost anything, yeah.
Right.
If you,
Roger about it once.
Need to take any analog and then digitize it and put it on a CD. So if this is something that you want us to work on, why don't you contact me, after this discussion.
That's a good one. You do VHS to DVD, because I have an old VHS I want to put on a DVD before it dies.
Gosh, I have so many movies, gee.
Yeah.
Well, mainly we focus on audio. I just want you guys to know that. We're an audio studio. So if you want the sound from it, we could probably help capture that.
All right.
Yeah.
But you can contact me. I think I gave you all the phone number here.
Oh, yeah, I've got it written down anyway, so.
227-3859.
Okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And for those of you who do go online, you could also reach me, jane.kronheim@gmail.com. And Kronheim is spelled Kron, as in Nancy, Heim, as in Mary.
I think I read of you when I proofread one of the books. I'm not sure which one, but I knew it had to be some textbook that I might have done.
Are you talking about something I wrote?
Yeah, either that or you were describing something. I do braille proofreading on a volunteer basis.
Where are you doing that?
I live at home. I did work at Clovenook at one time.
Oh, you're out in Ohio. Okay. Are you talking about something you've done out in Ohio?
Yeah, I forget where. I knew I read of your name at some point.
Well, I have published a number of papers, so you never know where you might have come across something I've written.
You might be thinking of the Ziegler, if you read that, because...
The what?
Didn't you write for the Ziegler for a while? I know you wrote for it for a while.
I wrote a few articles for the Matilda Ziegler magazine before it tore down. And long time ago, I wrote a few articles that were part of the journal of Visual Impairment and Blindness.
Oh, yeah.
Very long time ago, I wrote an article about the learning pillows. Is that something you think you read about?
Oh, I could have read it one of the Perkins Perspectives.
Ah. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I have anything with Perkins Perspectives, but it would have been a long time ago. It might have been in the Lantern.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. There was probably something in the Lantern about the preschool when I was there.
Yeah.
Is that what you're thinking of?
Yeah, because the Lantern was a much smaller magazine than the present Perspectives.
You got that right. So...
Okay, we have time for some more questions, if anybody has one.
Jane?
Yes?
Yeah, hi, this is Don in Central Mass. What have you done in the field of art?
Are you there?
Yes.
Okay. What did you want to know?
What have you done as far as art?
Oh, art for itself, art for art's sake. Up here, for the past 22 years where I've been living, I developed a folk art studio.
Okay.
So I do, I don't know, do you have any vision at all?
No, I do not.
Okay, because I was going to tell you to look at my website for Eastview Artisan, but that wouldn't help you. It's not a site that, just is readily describing all my art. But I do a lot of mixed media, and I call it folk art. I can work on almost any surface other than canvas. For instance, I can take an old breadboard and I'll clean it up and I'll do a beautiful landscape painting on it.
Okay.
Yeah, or I've worked on old windows. I'll do some painting in the glass. I'll take an old drawer, for instance. I set the drawer up as if it's, what a diorama is. So you set the drawer up, and I'll make a scene inside the drawer, kind of playful, a little bit childlike in some ways, yet sophisticated.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
I use cookie cutters. I use old wallpaper, old pom-poms, lots of stuff to create a scene that's very unusual and unique, the type of art that no one's ever seen before, because I like, just like with my other work, I like it to be original and authentic. But I do mixed media. I also work with natural resources like birch bark. I've painted on birch bark.
Oh.
I've taken acorns and added acorns to the scene, things like that. So if you were ever to come to Harrisville, New Hampshire, and get up this snowy hill, you can come when it's not snowing, of course. I'd be happy to show you my folk art studio. And this type of art developed especially during the past 20 years that I've been living here, because it's a beautiful natural environment where I'm influenced by the birds. I'm influenced by, I had a lot of foxes visiting me. I had bears and deer. So I wanted to be in this type of setting to also inspire me from nature, directly from nature. And
that's fascinating. Yeah.
Yes, so that the beauty and the nature also helps me to refresh myself so I can be creative.
Yep,
and though it's a bit rustic up here, I love living here. It's a very, very quiet place, which is also the setting for our audio studio.
Nice.
Well, looks like our time is up. The hour has progressed quite rapidly here this evening.
Well, thank you. And if any of you have any questions, you know how to reach me.
Okay.
Could you give that information one more time, please?
What?
Could you give out the number one more time?
My phone number here in Harrisville, New Hampshire, is 603-827-3859. I would love to hear from you. 603-827-3859.
Okay, very good. Jane Kronheim has been with us this evening on Branco Broadcast. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.